in that softening, what's already there comes into you, right? Or the answers are already there. It just has to well up inside you.
Hello and welcome to my podcast, Show Up. My name is Daryl Dittmer. As someone who built financial freedom from scratch, I understand what's possible, as there was a time when I thought I had only a life of mediocrity ahead of me. Drinking, drugs, and zero confidence plagued me. The one thing that changed my life is when I decided to do things differently and give success a chance. And I don't just mean financial success, I mean life success. I started to show up to my life and my career, and one step after another provided me the life I never thought possible. At any age, life begins to change when you start to show up. Welcome to my podcast. Today I'm joined by Dr. Mamta Bhatt. Dr. Bhatt is a macromolecular scientist, a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and has been a guest expert on CBS and NBC. She has worked with Fortune 50 companies like Nike, DuPont, and Johnson & Johnson, and then lived 20 years in a monastery. Today, she brings leading-edge science with ancient wisdom to help people around the globe recover from chronic illnesses. She specializes in high-performing women, helping them overcome self-abandonment. Welcome, Dr. Mamta. So great to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Daryl. It's my honor.
It really is. I was so excited. We had a chance to meet a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just sort of like, oh man, I can't wait to get Dr. Mamta on and let's talk. And it's just been this sort of wonderful feeling for me leading into this, because you are such a beautiful soul, and because you're helping so many people, and that didn't come without a certain price. That came with things that you had to change and give up and do. And I think that's really such a wonderful way for us to start. And I guess my question is, and the question that I normally start out with, which seems very apropos in this case, is tell us about an event or a time in your life that caused you to show up for your life in a different way.
It's a fantastic question. And in my life, as you know, there was a pivotal moment. And I can share that moment directly, but probably a little background so you know why it was such a pivotal moment. Is think about this little girl who is used to being at the top of her class, the top 1%, from, I'm talking first grade, second grade, the high achiever who's always like, it's all about grades, the nerdy person, right? And so off she goes, just achieving, achieving, achieving. And it becomes a path that she's used to, right? Because instead of thinking, oh my God, let me smell the flowers, let me go out and play a lot, right? Playing was a very tiny part. Okay. I didn't do any sports. I just want you to know, just think of this nerdy person, no sports till I was in college. Okay. And there too, I had to excel. So there's this drive to excel and to be the best at anything I touched, right? So when you want to be the best in anything, there's a lot of energy, right? A lot of effort, a lot of practice. In my case, yes, our Indian background, I'm sure you have a little bit of that stereotype that we're always trying for our kids to be the best at academics. I definitely think that was a part of it. But today, with the maturity that you have as you become older, you realize it was something I also put on me, right? Like the pressure to be the best. So once you realize, then I go and do a PhD. What you can imagine, getting the best PhD award, right? It has to be because that's what you're excelling at everything. So I'm building you this picture of a girl who's doing excellent on the outside, but has pressure built up from the inside that nobody's doing really, but it's self created, right? And I think you relate to it, and all high achievers will relate to it. And then I finished my PhD, and of course, we have to excel wherever the heck we go, right?
Yeah.
So hard work is just one part of it, but being like the creme de la creme was an unsaid goal, right? You're always doing everything to the best. So if you came to my house for dinner back then, okay, back then, you will have a five-course meal. Imagine, and I'll have palate cleansers and sorbets and the right pairings of, it had to be all perfect with the, I mean, everything. So I was putting so much effort into everything. Think about how much bandwidth you've got left. With a
Mm.
person like that who now goes, imagine doing projects with the space shuttle where you're trying to find out the composition of solar cosmic rays. This is all very esoteric stuff. But the point is, you're in high performance, high precision backgrounds, and you're putting this pressure that you can be nothing but exceptional, right? And imagine after years and years of this, you burn out completely. And as a scientist, the best in the medical field cannot find a solution, which is
Mm.
mind boggling to a scientist because you're going for your own league. Hey, I excel at what I do. You guys show me your best, right? And when
Right.
that doesn't happen, somebody like me was compelled because the desire to live, to thrive is so deep inside all of us, right? That I knew I have to get well. And that led me on a journey around the world. And I'm going to cut short to that moment in a minute. And when
Mm.
all the modalities that people go to, alternate medicine, homeopathy, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, energy healing, you name it, I tried it. And then I lived in a monastery. Okay, that's a long story, but we're coming to it. And in the monastery, again, Daryl, I had no idea I was using the same high performance metric. I was thinking, oh my God, so what's the deal here?
Yeah.
What's the top of the heap here? And okay, the top of the heap there is silencing your mind, right? Which is like people have spent hundreds of years trying to do that. And here, that high achiever in me, see, it was all unknown to me, was then spending hours and hours meditating, finding again, remember, like in the corporate world, we look for mentors. I was looking for the mentors. Who are the mentors in a monastery? The enlightened people. So I was going and seeking them out so that I can find what is the way that I can get this mind to be silent. Now I'll fast forward. I spent decades in the monastery, decades, and not getting physically well, but progressing a lot spiritually. And
Mm.
that was another like thing that shattered my mind because we are told if you progress spiritually, your body should become healthy too, because your mind
Mm.
is so powerful. So I'm now painting, bringing us to that point where I have done tremendous spiritual practices and the body is not getting well. It's very depleted. I cannot walk 3 steps without panting. No doctors can find anything. You have no energy and you can't digest anything. So imagine you're frail. And now, on one morning, I'm walking from my room. You just have a bare room in a monastery. Kind of, you sleep on the floor. It's like another, we can do another podcast on that. But anyway, I'm walking out. It's early morning and I see the sunrise through the trees, the branches. And I remember the before that moment, how depressed, how desperate, how um, just the bottom of the bottom, like hopeless I felt because my family didn't understand it either. So I had nobody, like nobody who was with me. Just remember this. And that moment when I saw that sunrise and I said, oh my God, I was so desperate to be happy. And we don't realize our life force is such a key part of this feeling of thriving, right?
Mm.
I didn't have that. It was so feeble and weak, and I felt exhausted. And I looked up and I was just transfixed at these beautiful yellow, orangish yellow, these rays of light coming through the leaves of this tree.
Mm.
And my soul yearned. And I heard this thing, me saying, oh, what it would be to be happy, because I wanted to be so badly happy. And a voice inside me said, but you are happy. And I kind of suddenly looked at myself like, how is that true? And I noticed my heart was open and my face had a smile on it. And in that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, you could actually hold two opposite things, which I thought were opposite till that moment, at the same time, which is you can have a frail, weak body, and yet you can choose joy. I had no idea because I was thinking I'll be well and then I will be happy. Then I will have be joyful. And in that moment, that's the life-changing moment I had, because looked there like, oh my God, I am smiling, but the body is still weak. And from that moment, I chose joy every single moment in that same monastery. I still remember I was wearing a yellow sari, and yellow became my favorite color, and sunshine became my favorite word. And I started like dancing, not physically, but your soul is dancing because now, oh my God, I can choose to be happy. And that was a revelation of the greatest kind for me, because as a result of that, my entire life changed. So I'll stop here and I'll tell you further.
That's wonderful, Dr. Mamta. And it hit me so many times right here when you're telling that story, because for so many reasons, but it made me think of, sometimes it's darkest before the dawn, right? It's some of the sort of adages and things that we hear, but then we experience them when you're looking at the sunshine and looking through the trees and you're in that moment. And I've had a similar experience, and I've had my own physical challenges. I had ulcerative colitis for a period of time, and that came because I was directed toward trying to be one thing, which was what I thought was successful at that time in my life. But the wonderful thing and the beautiful thing about it, as difficult as that experience was, I learned so many things. I learned what contentment and fulfillment are. I learned about healing my body with changing my diet and doing things differently and finding that stillness. You mentioned hearing that voice and saying, you already have happiness and joy. And I think about that. I think about the many times in my life, the sort of Christian tradition that I grew up with, which was you have to ask for courage, and you have to ask for faith, and you have to ask for joy, and you have to ask for all these things. And then it occurred to me one day, very similar to yours, we already have them. We already have them. They're in here. And I can live from that perspective when I choose to live from that perspective.
Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think that one of the greatest things that moment did for me, and we share these practices with people, is that whatever condition you're in life, whether you're without money, whether you've had a terrible relationship, you lost somebody very important, you're bankrupt, whatever it is, right? Or your health has gone, like, there's always something wonderful to be grateful for, whatever it is. That moment changed me so much, because I like kind of pranced out of there like, oh my gosh, like the sunshine, oh my God, the children playing, oh my God, the puppies dancing, like amazing tiny little things that I was completely deleting because obsessed with my own healing, right? My mind had become like this, me, right? When is it
Mm.
going to happen? Why me? Why me? And that was causing a lot of bitterness, a lot of desperation, a lot of, sadness, right? Because you're thinking it's a transaction, but actually, life is so kind. It was in its own way, sort of pressing me enough, like Play Doh, to let me see what was already existing, right? And that beauty of what is existing changed me, because within about a week or 10 days after I started like practicing this all the time because there was something wonderful. I suddenly had the idea that, hey, I've been everywhere around the world. Nobody could find a cure for me. I'm a scientist. I can look at my blood work. Why don't I see what's there? Why didn't this idea come to me 20 years before, right?
Mm.
It came to me, I think, because I opened myself up as a result of that epiphany, as a result of that, softening of myself, right? And in that softening, what's already there comes into you, right? Or the answers are already there. It just has to well up inside you. And when that idea came, I made this protocol, which is now helping people around the world. So it's such a grace to just change your focus, your perspective, or be grateful for what's there.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful because so much of my life for many, many years now has been about softening. And my name, Daryl, in Irish means oak tree. so, so, which is fairly apropos because I'm a pretty tall dude and I'm like an oak tree.
Right.
And it's funny because I went to an acupuncturist who's become a friend of ours now,
Mhm.
and this wonderful, wonderful guy, and I said, I really I want to soften. I want to, just be less like an oak tree and more like a reed.
Beautiful.
And he said, and I love this that he said this because he said, dude, you are an oak tree. Just be the best oak tree you can be.
Right.
And the best oak tree moves with the wind,
Yes. Yeah.
like a reed. And so that was a beautiful thing for me to hear.
Yes.
And it sounds, as I listen to what you're saying, Dr. Mamta, and I can relate to every piece of it, but it's number one, we can be grateful not just for the wonderful stuff. We can be grateful for, and I think even more so,
Yes.
for the trials and the difficulties and the things that light our path.
Yes.
Because without those things, our path would not be lit in the same way.
Absolutely. In fact, I would add to what you said that it's actually the challenges which ring us so that the best of us can emerge. Very few people bring out their best when they're in every wonderful circumstance. Yes, they do with what's good. But when you have a challenge, all these qualities that lay dormant inside you start coming out because they have an opportunity, like courage, right?
Mm,
Like persistence, like perseverance, and self. How about self faith? That's the greatest of everything, right?
mm,
That I can do it, and that's priceless. So all of those challenges, like even today, I say, I'm very surprised and so blessed because I never thought I was going to leave the monastery. That's another story, and I've been back only 3 years. So I have to say that there was a greater, grander plan because that was the most difficult time of my life, but also the most precious, the one that transmuted me from the person I went inside who was one dimensional into achievement. And now I came out like a whole being.
absolutely. And that which leads to another sort of road to travel on here. And I believe this with all of my heart. You mentioned one dimensional. And when we're living from that one dimensional perspective, the universe is saying to me, and this is my personal belief, it's like Daryl, you gotta expand, man. You gotta look at things differently. You have to experience things differently. We're gonna show you how to do that. And so the universe will bring some of these things into my life that are challenging and difficult, moving me toward a better experience of
Yes.
life. And for me, that centers around treating my body correctly, treating my mind correctly, treating my heart correctly, treating my soul correctly. And I believe that is really the foundation of what you teach.
Absolutely. I love what you said because any high achiever listening to us today will relate to that one dimensionality because, and there's just not two of us. Like for the longest time, I thought that's how everybody must be. I had no idea that there are people who lived a normal life, right? I just had to be the best in everything. And there was nobody telling me to be it. I just felt compelled, right? So I think the high achievers will relate that our lives are so much about giving our self worth from the output we produce, from our
Mm,
productivity, right? So we cannot rest. We feel guilty resting. We feel that we must overdo to make sure that we are really so good. You will get to know how good I am because it will be so over the top whatever we produce. And I laugh at it only because now when you look back at yourself, right, it's only amusing because there was no necessity to be like that, right? So I think high achievers today are working heavily from completely disconnecting from themselves, right?
mm,
And how do we do that? Because if I'm working on a project that now has to have some team which is going to evaluate this, I make my worth to be this project instead of I happen to be doing this project. I remain independently worthy. I remain independently worthy. I'll do my best, of course. But this is not me. It is a product of something I did, right? It's an out. But everybody who's a high achiever is confusing their own selves with this output. So now we have forgotten about us. What do I need? What you just said, I'm just going to repeat that in a different way, is the same thing. If I love myself, it changes all the decisions I make.
mm,
First thing is, am I checking in with me? Right? Am I able to do this? This morning I wake up. Let me spend the first hour on me, the first 2 hours on me. How do I fill my cup? If that means I sit silently, if that means I breathe for me, right? If that means I write some affirmations with breathing, and I'm very much into that.
mm,
And that means I go in nature, I see the morning sunlight. It means I may walk for half an hour or 1 hour, whatever it is your special thing. You take care of you, and then everything else, that is a byproduct and a very important product, that you are doing what's good for you first. Why? Because everything else will only translate from how good you are, right? If you're in a good space, how good we are. Somebody cuts you in the traffic, you're like, ha 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 ha, right? And on a bad day, you're like, oh my God, like blah, like, because you're like externalizing everything that's hurting inside. Yeah. So the vacuum inside is projected outside, and that's the kind of a situation the world is in right now, right? Because it's a product of whatever you're seeing and putting inside versus from inside offering to the world. And then your decisions of what you eat, how you exercise, who are your friends. Show me all your friends, and I'll show you who you are,
mm,
right? And about how you rest, how you vacation, how you spend your extra time, what you input to me doesn't just mean food, it means what you consume on TV or on streaming media. It's what you consume even listening to your friends, right? This is all impacting your mind. So all your entire, it's like a root system. Everything will get impacted when we decide to just take a deep breath. Say, I love myself. I really, really love myself. And we tell ourselves that. It's not just repeating mechanically, right? It's an effort to really be true to you when no one's watching. It's not a performance. And that connecting with yourself deeply, truly, with honesty, and over days, that stacking, right? The stacking of this behavior will now create a wonderful human being who's so calm and relaxed because they're able to give. Because here, this thing that you're grabbing from the world, acknowledge me, love me, talk to me, me. Now you're filling your cup, right? And when you fill your cup, it's so much easy to give. The overflow you give.
Absolutely. Showing up for ourselves. I had a mentor 40 years ago say to me, and everything is an unfolding in terms of understanding, right? The things that we're told and the things that mentors say and that we hear and experience. And he said to me long ago, and I was 19, 20 at the time, he said, Daryl, first things first, and the rest will be added on. And it kind of sounds biblical. And I was like, I'm not sure I know exactly what you're talking about, but I'm going to put that one in my pocket and see how it unfolds in me over time. And I did, and it's so true, and it's exactly what you're saying, Dr. Mamta. It's I have to take care of in here first and foremost, and that is my charge and my duty in this life, certainly not just for me, but for how I am in the world and how I am to others and how I can treat the world and how I choose or not to help who I can. And it all starts with that first things first. I think that's just a beautiful way to say it. And when I was very young, I was taught that my value, and it wasn't a teaching that they were telling me, but it was just the messages that I got. My value was how well I achieved in grades, in sports, in all of those things. And so that was what I carried with me. And there's still little vestiges of that move with me through life. But I've learned over time that I am allowed to settle myself and find that stillness. And one of the things that I love to live by today is, and it sounds a little clunky, but it matters to me, is I have to be careful how I go at my life and how I go at myself. And the thought is, Daryl, don't be too hard on yourself, but also don't be too easy on yourself. And there's a balance in there somewhere. I'd love to hear what you think about that, Dr. Mamta.
Outstanding observation. And I think, and I offered you this, that I wonder if it's us high achievers who worry about being too easy. Because
Mm.
remember, we have had such a tight standard, right? Very high. We thought we are high standards. I mean, I can say perfectionist, right? People told me that, and I just thought they just don't have any standards. Like, how? How can you allow that to be an output, right? But I didn't know. So I love what you said, because yes, it does sound like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be too easy, or I shouldn't be too hard. Very well said. I would offer to you that for people like myself, at least I speak for me, we have literally zero ability to be easy on ourselves, because what is easy is still what people are like struggling to accomplish, right? So yes, if somebody's like in the middle, not so extreme high achiever like I have been, definitely, how can you be easy, because you don't know how to be easy. You don't know how to be lax, you don't know how to just rest. High achievers like us, we feel very guilty if we are not putting an output. Even if we are watching YouTube, it must be educational, it must be something which will improve me, I'll add to this. There is never a moment when you're like, ah, you know just to sit and stare out into the sky, because that would not feel like we're being productive. So I offer to you, yes, in principle, what you said is absolutely right. And cautioning all high achievers who are listening, we have to be honest, right, with ourselves. How bad is our condition? You have to be the doctor and the patient, right? So once we realize that we don't even have the ability to sit 5 minutes, forget 20 minutes, doing nothing, like zero, I can tell you, you said it beautifully, that you're catching yourself. I am very much still that person, even with all this awareness. I catch myself like my free time. I'm doing organic gardening. Well, do you think I'm just doing organic gardening? Oh my God, I'm making my compost from scratch. And people are asking me, oh, which composter are you buying? No, I know how to make it from scratch. you know, I'm growing everything organic. And then, of course, I have all the organic. I'm just giving a tiny little example so somebody can hear themselves in it. I'm making all the nourishing organic vegetable peel potions for my organic garden. Like there is a lot happening, even though it's just supposed to be a hobby, right? So I realize that for me, and each one has to do it for themselves, right? What's the truth? Uh, the truth will set you free. So I have to learn that it's okay if everything is not thriving at the highest level in my garden, right? I don't have to go and be this, finding out about every little plant and why it's not having the highest, and I do have the very, very good output from my organic garden. Don't have pests, because back to our human body, if you put stuff into it which is good, you're not going to have to live with so much pests and their problems with what pests do. Do you see the parallel I'm making?
Mm.
In the soil and the garden, the soil itself is so wonderful. I'm making it from scratch, right? And it's so full of nutrients that when people come to my garden, they're like, wow, you don't have any pests. Your things are not getting eaten up. I have no idea. I am assuming it's because the compost is so good and I'm giving all these nourishing banana peel liquid, onion peel liquid. But you see, it's a whole project I'm doing, correct? So back to it, I just made one parallel here with our human bodies, right? Because when I found out that methodology and I healed myself in 90 days, what did I go back to? Nature, the basics, right? And so this whole thing is just pure nature, right? So if it was left outside to decay when you pass away, it becomes the earth. There's nothing else left. So what will you thrive with most? If you have a lifestyle and food which is closest to nature,
Mm.
as much whole food, as much being outside, live food, right? So same way, we will have less of dis-ease because we are now thriving with our own people. Who are our own people? Nature is our own people, actually, right? And same way, when I grow the garden, I see the parallel, right? That I'm giving it what it likes, and so it's not having that many troubles, right? So I think it's back to self-awareness.
It is. It absolutely is. And I think it's important for us to recognize so that we can start to begin that change within ourselves if we're feeling that unrest or that dis-ease. And I don't
Yes.
mean
Yeah.
necessarily of the body, but just that
Yeah.
unease or
Yeah.
dis-ease. And because the world is telling us you got to go toward the noise. You got to go toward what's pulling you in. You got to go toward the TV. You got to go toward the social media. You got to go toward the things that want to only give noise.
Yes.
And so it takes a very conscious decision
Yes.
to choose stillness and to choose nature. It's funny because my wife and I were out on our deck this morning and we're just looking at the clouds like, oh, look, there's a deer in the clouds and there's a face in the clouds. And it's beautiful because we spend most of our mornings, just the first several minutes, if not somewhere between a half hour and an hour, just experiencing the stillness and experiencing the sky and how it changes. And I can't think of a better way to start my day. And I can't think of a better way to plug into what nature has been trying to tell me since I became, a person on this planet. Like
Yes.
it's if I plug in, the universe just kind of lays it out for me and says, okay, this is next, this is next, this is next. And it's a beautiful way to to allow our lives to move forward without sort of grabbing it by the shoulders and saying, here's how you got to do it. It's the universe will show us what to do.
Such beautiful thoughts. I would like to, I want to remember to touch on both the things that came to me. One, you said excellently that everything is in today's world driving us towards the noise. And I think a little bit of awareness, right? With everyone who's listening and who's just sort of not getting immersed into it, but just give us a little distance, right? Distance also gives you perspective. And if we give that little perspective, we realize that the noise, we are told to go, everything is telling us to go to the noise, right? And if you're not on it, it's not so okay. We must understand the forces that are driving it. There is monetary considerations for those special, specific, nameless entities that we shall, which want us to be, in the noise because that drives their profits up. Yes. And we have to be the people, the person who has to have the courage and the attention and awareness of what's good for me. If I walk outside my house and on the right side there is a patch which has a little pothole, it is my duty to avoid the pothole. Yes or no? And
Absolutely.
yes, so it's my duty. It's about me caring for me, back to self love, right? Back to self love. If you really just take one mantra, I really, really love myself. And if I say that to myself with breathing, and there's a particular technique I teach, it'll start reverberating in your cells because now the cells are saying, okay, well, what does it look like to love myself? What does it look like? Because it's just a word which sounds very superficial these days, that go get a massage or go get a pedicure. It is not just that. It is so much more deeper. It is about what's the right action for me to be whole and wholesome. So again, back to the thing that yes, everything is driving you towards the noise. Then second point here, in the world, I don't know if you're are you a scientist? What is your math? Do you have a math background? Because you're going.
No, no, I used a lot in my professional career, but
Okay,
no.
but I'm going to say something. So when you were in school, and like say you were in eighth grade, and your teacher came and said, well, I've graded all the papers and this is the distribution of the grades. You remember that? The
Mm,
Gaussian distribution. Okay, so what does that tell you? That most people fall in here, right? What is it? The best people are very few and they're over here, and maybe the ones with the least grades are here. Very few both sides, right? So this maximum people is where you're hearing the noise. They all go with the crowd, right? And they all go where everybody else is going. If
mm.
I take a deep breath and I allow it to exhale a little longer, I allow myself to just sit here a moment with me and not be afraid of my own silence and what may come in that silence. And if I allow and practice that just simply without any other motive, to just feel myself, how it is to breathe, right? Slowly, calmly, with a longer exhalation. By and by, this incredible intelligence which runs your body, which no human supercomputer has been able to replicate yet, right? This incredible intelligence rises to the surface. And the greatest book that you have to read is the book of your own life, the book inside of you. The greatest wisdom is the one that you allow to surface from inside because it has everything. And so, what's the gift to give? is not to follow the crowd and the noise, because what does noise give you? Only more noise. And you know the world is yearning for peace, yearning for feeling safe. And where does safety come from? The breath. So if we can come back to ourselves, because what we want is from here, then just taking that moment where we're not following the crowd, because we're taking what's good for us, just that practice, I'm only sharing one practice of breathing in and breathing, the exhale being longer, not even telling numbers, nothing fancy. Breathe in and exhale a little longer. Sit for 10 minutes and do that every day. Come back to me in 2 weeks and tell me what's happening. Right? A whole different you starts emerging, which we didn't even know existed. So I'm honoring everything you said.
Thank you, and that's wonderfully said. You mesmerized me with your words, honestly, Dr. Mamta. It's because when I do those practices, and I practice them every morning, and it's amazing how I can just be gone. I can just I'm not worried about me. I'm not thinking about me. I'm just focusing either on my breath or my belly movement or whatever that is, and everything goes away. And I would say this with just in terms of, for my audience and people who are listening and your audience is,
Yeah.
it's the world will try to pull you back in. And I'll use an example of when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and I went to a gastro and gastroenterologist and he put me on a bunch of drugs and I just didn't like the drugs. I'm not a prescription person. But I was having some pretty serious problems. So I wanted to at least stem the issue. And I did that. But what I did was I started investigating ways to heal myself via diet and exercise and stillness and acupuncture and a number of different things. And I started to heal. And I told the gastroenterologist, I said, I'm going to take myself off the drugs. He was not in any way excited about that.
Yes.
He was upset.
Yes.
And so when we start to do things differently, people are going to try to pull us back in to what everybody else has decided is correct.
Yes.
And it's very important to be aware of that because we don't have to go back in. Our safe place is not with the crowd. And
You
it sounds odd to hear it that way, but I truly believe that my safest place for me is right in here.
absolutely.
And the more I can touch that and the more I can spend my life living from here, that's where everything happens.
Well, we're twin souls. So beautifully said. Beautifully said. I think that anything, let's just go back to the history of time. Yeah. Anything that was done great, let's say the earth is round versus flat, just say simple things like that. And you go all the way to the invention, whether it was electricity or the telephone, it was never done in crowds. There was one lone guy or woman who was at it, at it, at it, when nobody believed them, when they had 300, 500 rejections, or the experiment failed. They had that conviction. So I say to you, that everything magnificent in the whole history of humanity was done by those people who had faith in themselves and stuck it out when the entire crowd believed otherwise. So if you're one of those people, I say to your audience, listen to this and then go out, because the light is with you, or whatever is the word, without sounding woo woo. But this magnificent energy which runs this whole universe throbs inside you. Listen to it. Nothing can be greater than that. And that gives you all the power, right? And so when you listen to that and I hear you, I will share a very tiny thing. I was in the monastery. The whole world had given up on me, right? Because I was this high flyer. Everybody thought, what the heck has happened to her, right? My mother thought something's wrong with my brain, right? Which was even more devastating because nothing was wrong with my brain. And the best thing is I've made peace with all of it because they all were trying to help you with good intention from where they were, right?
Mm.
And the rest of my family, after a certain time, thought, what the hell is she doing in that monastery? Get her out of there. But every cell in my being was knowing that I was healing at a level much deeper than my body. There was something magnificent happening to me, which I'd never experienced with all those incredible on paper achievements, right? On paper, as you have, as I have. We know that high achievers have a vacuum inside because they feel exhausted and tired inside, even though on paper they look like flying, airplanes, right? They look fantastic. And that's the classic thing because all our energy we put into the output, we didn't keep some of it here, right? To make this thing thrive. This is not a machine. This is not a robot to keep running with a whip and flogging it to produce more, which is what I was really doing. And this is nature, right? Like imagine in nature, if all day the sun is shining and all the photosynthesis is happening, everything is happening for this plant to grow, and imagine there's no night, what would happen? That is the equivalent of you and me flogging, like keep producing, keep
Mm.
producing. Everything will die because it needs that whole cycle of repair and then thriving and then repair and growth. And that's what we thrive with. We need that restorative sleep. We need that laughter. We need that social connection with positive, wonderful people. Like we said, we are the product of our friends. And that reduces inflammation way better than any anti inflammatory, right? Joy changes your breathing, it changes your stress hormones, it changes how your sleep is, it changes your relationships because you come better to the relationship. You're more humorous, you're more relaxed, you're more giving, and you're more forgiving. So, all of these wonderful things that you have shared all happen when you take a stand for yourself.
So beautifully said, Dr. Mamta. I just really so beautifully said. And thank you for sharing that wisdom. And because there's always an answer. And I feel like that is such an important thing to impart is that there's always an answer, and generally or mostly the answer is found in here. It's almost never found outside of me. And it goes to what am I willing to do? And not necessarily what am I ready to do, but
Mhm.
what am I willing to do? And I think that's what you were referring to when you were saying, you have to try 300 or 400 or 500 times, which I'll switch gears a little bit and
Yeah.
talk about getting, the word out in our respective disciplines and what we're trying to do in the world. And it's been a bit of a challenge for me because it's new to me, in the overall scheme of things. I've done a number of different things in a number of different businesses, and I've always loved to help people and teach people, but I haven't done it as an occupation. I've done it along with my life. And I think you've probably experienced something similar.
About getting the word out.
Yeah, just in terms of, how do I help as many people as I possibly can? And right.
Yes. So I think part of it, yeah, I'm curious why it happened to you. For me, part of it was um, that I think living in the monastery, I got identified with another identity, right? We all have identities. First, you and I, we had the high achiever identity, even though we didn't call ourselves high achievers, but we were, right? We had an identity. I'm excellent. I produce the best, blah, blah. And then I went into the monastery. I donated all my houses, my cars, everything, right? Everything. I felt such a relief because I was carrying too much in my head, right?
Mm,
And didn't think practically, right? There was no practical. I'm like, oh, one all or nothing person, right? I'll fully do it because I want to make sure that I've really done it well, whatever it is I'm doing, right? So in the monastery, I got this identity of being the one who doesn't need anything, right?
mm,
Unknown to me, unknown to me. And don't forget, I never thought I was coming back. So, there we are in the
right.
monastery, living in one tiny room, right? I think that incredible situation where he created my protocol and healed myself was just like the I was thrilled that I healed myself, right? I had no other motive or anything right time. It's just that as soon as I healed myself, people who had seen me sick came to me and said, "Hey, can you help my girlfriend? She's got cysts in her ovaries and she's been told to do surgery by three different doctors. She doesn't want to do surgery. Can you help her?" So it started with just that first time that someone came to me, right? And of course, remember the identity. I mean, I didn't even think of charging money. I was going to help everyone for free. That the idea or even the word free was not in my mind. I just wanted to help, right?
Mm, right.
Part of it was because of the misery of 20 years. I didn't want anyone to suffer the way I had because there was no need to suffer. Remember, I realized from that whole situation where I empowered myself that if I could teach everybody to be the CEO of their health, of their life, they will be so empowered. Back to what you found with your gastroenterologist, that you are taking things in your own hands. And so that makes others powerless, correct? And in your case, gave you so much, self awareness and empowerment. It made you feel great because now you can do things. So in my case too, I was helping everybody and allowing them to learn. So everybody, I taught them so much that they would never need, not only me, they would never need any doctor. Because again, what was I doing? Being thorough with what I was doing. And so it was going by word of mouth. And this is going to be very funny when you're going to listen about some of the sort of paradigms of people who live in the monastery. We think that we're doing such a good deed, we're helping people. Whoever God wishes will come to me. I don't have to tell anybody anything. And so for the longest time, I didn't look for anybody because I was sort of rejoicing in my own health. And people were just like the first lady with the cysts, she got well in 90 days. Then she told somebody else. Somebody came with diabetes. Then they got well. Then people started sending more family members. Like soon enough, I would know four people of the same family. So it started going like that, right? So there was no question in my head about spreading the word, so to speak, because it was kind of going by word of mouth, which I think is the best. But I think I also was so idealistic. That's on me. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Idealistic, being a monastery person, that whoever needs me will appear, magically out of thin air. They will know, they will meditate and, oh, there's Dr. Mamta. Let me go to her. I thought about it later. I thought, how ridiculous is that? But we all have our things. So I had to let go of that. Yeah, I had to let go of that. And I'm just curious why you kept that idea, because you were smart enough to not believe any of the things I just thought about.
no, no, and thank you for saying that. I don't like. I like to do my work, and I just want to do it in secret. Sort of that was my thing. I didn't want necessarily the accolades. I wanted to be the best, but I almost didn't want anybody to see me. Which even I was talking to a counselor one time in my younger years, and there was a light on that was right here. I had hair then. And there was a light on, and I asked if I could turn the light off because I didn't want the light on me. And so that has been sort of, here's a dude doing a podcast, right? I don't anybody look at me, but I'm going to do a podcast. But those are the challenges for me. Those are the things that I need to overcome.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly reminded, and this is something that I picked up many, many years ago in the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna, he's a great warrior and he doesn't want to fight his kin, his family, because they're on the other side of this war.
Yeah.
And Krishna says, hey, dude, you're a warrior.
Yeah.
You got to go be a warrior. And it resolved, right, with him being a warrior. But that was his duty,
Yeah.
is to be a warrior. And I feel like something that I go back to all the time, and what continues to push me forward, is I truly believe my duty at this point in my life is to help as many people as I can to expand themselves to where they're living from the perspective of body, mind, heart, and soul in whatever else they're pursuing, whether it's, business or sales or whatever it is. How can I help them lead from inside as opposed to outside?
That's absolutely beautiful and such a good heart. I'm thankful for you to share that. Um, I will share a little bit that may give a little perspective. You know, for me, life seems to have come a full circle. So when I was a little child, I was always on stage. Since I was a little kid, like I'm talking 5 or 6 years of age, I was on the stage, like the whole play is being performed silently, and I'm the one speaking the whole play out, like for 45 minutes. And I remember coming out of that whole auditorium and a tiny little girl holding my mom's hand, and people coming to my mom and saying, my God, she didn't forget any of her lines. She said the whole play. So again, of course, I was selected, and I was doing lots of debating, lots of elocution, lots of plays, lots of speaking in front of large audiences. That continued when I was at work, right? I was presenting, I was, and board of directors meetings. So there was a lot of being on stage in front of large groups of people, 3,000 people. So I then went to a monastery. Think about that. Like the silence, and completely nobody knows you, nobody's talking, you're on your own. I needed it, and I think it was a balm to my soul. And I just didn't connect ever that I would have a life back here in the world, right? Because 20 years really makes you exactly what you just said. I did not want any photographs. I did not want to be in print anywhere. I did not want to be interviewed. I did not want to talk to anybody. I can talk privately, lots of wisdom, because it's just there, it's bubbling, you know. It's not something I'm saying pre-prepared, right? But what a what a round circle. Just 3 years ago, I come back here just because my daughter is here in COVID time and crying, and long story. So I come to visit, and I never expected to stay, and it's just been one thing after another. You get interviewed suddenly on TV, and they're asking you your whole story. So more and more people are coming, right? And then one TV station hears you, then the other ones want to call you. Think about me, my God, the first day on that TV, I was thinking, what has happened to me from the monastery? And just the other day I got interviewed, and the guy says, we're going to live stream on Facebook or Instagram. I'm like, no, that's too much. Just the thought, if he had not told me and done it, I would be still the same person. I'm just a real authentic person all the time. But it's so I am trying to let go of those paradigms, right? And like you beautifully said, there is a message specific to what I have gone through, what you've gone through, that somebody needs to hear. And those people will gravitate towards you just like bees come to honey. And they will, either by word of mouth or whatever the mechanism is. There are enough people who are blasting the whole universe, but nobody's listening. So it's important for us, I think, because we are much more deeply sort of inwardly drawn. I think part of it is to let go. And you've said beautiful quotations and words from the Gita that I don't know how many people in your audience will know. But one of the greatest things, as you know beautifully, is do your action and then surrender the results. Because the misery is in holding on and waiting for the results, right? Because you and I cannot guarantee the results, but we can do our best, which you and I are 100% doing our best. Our hearts are good. Those who have the feeling can feel it. right? So I think we will do our best and then offer it and then detach from it, because you are so highly evolved. You understand these things.
Thank you. And so wonderfully said. It reminds me of Taoism, right? Just do your work and let it go. And that's really what I tried to do. And
Yeah.
but I'm in the same, I'm still Daryl. I'm still, there all of the versions of me are in there. There might be, some that are leading the charge now that were, the other ones might be in the back seat, but it's still all there.
Yeah.
And but I love that because I can accept that that's the case and not drive myself crazy and not just be a nut job running around trying to get things done, which,
Exactly.
I'm very capable of doing. I can still do that.
Yeah.
It's funny because my wife used to say, years and years ago when we first met, I'd be working on something. I used to rehab old homes and that sort of thing, which I just love doing, just sort of bringing them back to life. And I'd be working all day, and Christina would be doing, her thing, and she'd come back home, and it's 6:00, and she'd be like, "Have you had anything to eat?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "I forgot because
Yeah,
I'm so busy."
that's me. Yes.
Right, but that's attending.
Yeah.
We learn over time to attend to ourselves,
Yeah.
and anyway, I just, so much comes up, Dr. Mamta, in our discussions, and we do have to make this a series. We have to do this again
Definitely.
at some point.
So much to talk about.
There really is, and I love everything we've discussed today, and in order to continue to get the word out for what you're doing, and I look at your work as just such a beautiful contribution to everything wonderful, right? Just helping people become their best selves and showing them that path. And so how do we find you? How do we connect with you? How does my audience connect with you? I'd love it if you'd let us
Wonderful.
know.
I will also send you all these things right after this so you can add it to the link. So first, easiest way is to find me on Instagram at the Joyful Scientist, FUL, 1L, and it's that Joyful Scientist. And then I'm on TikTok, also at the Joyful Scientist, but double L because that's what was available. And of course, my website is a fantastic place to connect, and that's Doctor, exactly my name right now on the screen. Just put www and the whole thing together, drmamtabhatt.com. And we would be delighted to, because they're your audience, so then they can come to us directly and send an email to info@drmamtabhatt.com. And definitely, I'll give you a phone number too, so we can give your audience preference over anything that they would like help with their health, with their mindset, with, more importantly, integrating that success is impressive, but health as a foundation gives that success the light and the stars that it really does deserve. But health needs to be the foundation. And when I say health, it's not just body, like you said beautifully, body, mind, and spirit all integrated. And then everything else is a flower on top. And I'll wrap it up with saying that the fragrance of the flower is what we want to share, so that after you and I are long gone from these bodies, there is that fragrance of the wisdom that we were blessed, because we can't do it ourselves. It's coming through, right? We were blessed with that wisdom, and may that wisdom help others onto that path back to themselves.
So wonderfully said, Dr. Mamta. Thank you so much for you honor me by joining me today very much, and thank you. Wonderful, wonderful discussion.
Thank you. You were fantastic, and you asked fantastic questions, and I'm so grateful to meet somebody of your caliber, and for somebody with the depth that you have. It's a real honor and pleasure on my part.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Thank you for joining us on the Show Up podcast. To learn more about me, my coaching, or my books, please feel free to visit my website, DarylDittmer.com. DarylDittmer.com. Thank you.